All right, part 3 of the ceramics lecture, functional aspects of ceramics. Clay can be shaped into a variety of forms. Specific forms are often associated with specific functions. It's helpful to identify the parts of a vessel in order to describe form and function of a pot. Ah. There's a tendency globally among potters and archaeologists alike to personify pottery and to compare the anatomy of a pot to a human's anatomy. Each vessel has an orifice, a rim, and a lip. The mouth is at the rim. The neck is a nearby body part, but not all vessels have necks. Each vessel has a body, and most sherds are body sherds. Each vessel has a base. The left example shows a foot, which is an elaborated protruding base appendage. Sometimes vessels have handles, feet, as I said, spouts, and or decorative appliques, maybe even a waist. Jars are typically used for storage, water transport, and cooking. Jars have narrow rims, usually, and elongated bodies with necks of varying lengths. Necks invert from the body to the rim. Among archaeologists, a vessel has to have some sort of elongated contraction to be a jar. In the anatomy from Ethiopia here on the right, that wasn't true. This one still has a neck, even though maybe this wouldn't be considered a jar for some archaeologists. This is a difference between an outsider or etic vocabulary and an insider or emic vocabulary, ETIC versus EMIC. Bowls and plates are for serving and eating off of. Both have wide rims and lack necks altogether. In the field, you are generally going to find vessel fragments, sherds. You will typically separate rim and base sherds from body sherds because rim and base sherds are helpful for special analyses and are diagnostic of form, which speaks to use. For example, in the classic period Rio Grande region, the ceramic typology relies on rim form. You have to have a rim to type a sherd. Oh, I should say unpainted body sherds are difficult to identify to a vessel form and are often considered non-diagnostic. Now, if you have paint on one surface, it is easier to identify form. Bowls and plates will have paint on the inner curved surface and may be painted on the exterior. Jars have paint on the outer curved surface and usually none on the inside because you can't see it or get to it anyway. So this green example in the upper right seems to be a jar, for example, but we'd have to see the sherd in person to be sure. We'll go over more of these typing sherds by to form in the lab lecture. Firing methods. Ceramics can be fired in open air pits, covered pits or containers, or kilns. So what we usually do is divide firing methods by the relationship the ceramics have to the fuel source. So in open firing, the ceramic and fuel, whether it's wood, dung, sawdust, they're laid next to each other and they touch each other. So they're in a stack on the ground or in a shallow depression or in some sort of fireproof container. Kiln firing. In a kiln firing, the pottery and fuel are kept separate. The pot is usually in a chamber, which is heated by the hot gases and flames created by the fuel. All pottery needs to be fired to about 550 to 600 degrees Celsius, or it'll eventually disintegrate. But ceramics will vitrify or turn to glass at much higher temperatures, around 1050 to 1200 degrees Celsius. And that's when you start to get things like porcelain. And you need a kiln to really reach those high temperatures. that's it for the functional aspects of pottery, and we kind of delved back into technological with this firing stuff, but just know that these aspects, technological, decorative, and functional, they all interconnect. So keep that in mind and tune in for the final part of the lecture on decorative aspects of pottery.